What's up? What's going on? Facts, Lies, One Truth, and the Shrimp Garage Talks with Ox. This thing is really awkward to drink out of, honestly. But beer still tastes as good as you would expect. It does. I was going to say a lovely night tonight in the garage. It is quite humid. We do have the fan on. The AC is off for you guys. But nonetheless, lovely night. We got Orlando City on. We have the Pirates on. Both of them are getting throttled. NHL draft inside the Sphere. I don't know any of the players in the NHL draft. I almost said NFL again, but NHL again. I don't know any of the players. But man, like that in the Sphere is pretty wild stuff. Like, what is the resolution that you have to export, right, to get the Sphere? Like, it's something I can't even imagine. You know. Anyway, tonight we're talking the Bengals. So I worked for the Bengals back in 2014, and I haven't really told a lot about it, mostly because I don't need to flaunt what I've done, what I have done, who I am. It's not really my MO, but it was a crazy part of my life because, I was 24 years old, recently graduated from Marshall and for grad school, right? Trying to make it in the world, trying to be somebody. And I didn't really know what to expect. I almost didn't take the job, to be honest with you, because I remember when I first, I don't even know, my boss, Brad, that ended up hiring me down here at UCF2, he got an email or a call or a text from the video coordinator at the Bengals, and who was also a graduate from Marshall and was looking for someone to be, at the time, they did a third and fourth spot, right? As in they had like basically a third guy and a fourth guy. Fourth guy, I guess, they're both interns, not really, but the fourth guy was more considered a lesser pay position. Nonetheless, looking for somebody. I was graduating grad school, and my name came up, right? So took the job. I remember calling. Florida State was also kind of on the list. They wanted me to come, but they weren't paying anything either. You don't make anything getting out of college with your. I don't know about other graduate students, but I didn't have a lot of offers on the table, so that was it. But nonetheless, I took the position. I know I was on the fence between $12 an hour and $10 an hour. I think what it was. Yeah. And I was, being, big dog, kind of running the show a little bit at Marshall, right, for video. I figured I could also just jump right in the $12, $12 is more than $10. But basically what I did for Marshall and obviously ended up doing with the Bengals, I was, video coordinating with college and in the NFL. Basically, you shoot all the games, shoot all the practices, a lot of scouting. You're very involved with, computers and technology. I'm dubbing this down very layman's terms so everybody can understand it. And you're in every day, right? When the coaches are there, you're there, right? If they can't get their mouse to work, you're fixing it, right? If they can't get the computer to turn on, they're fixing it. If they want some opponent scouting film from, San Diego State, you got to go track it down, right? You got to shoot every drill. You got to shoot all the summer camps. It's a lot of hours. It's time consuming. I don't think it's a glorious job. I guess it can be if you win, right? And you get to kind of ride the wave, but it's not glorious. So that's what I did. And Marshall coming up the ranks, and then the Bengals kind of needed someone to kind of do something similar, and then that's kind of how I got hired. My first day, I remember the move to Cincinnati was wild enough. My uncle helped me. Guy in my wedding, Brandon, helped me. We drove to Cincinnati, about 2.5 hours away from Huntington, West Virginia. I remember my first day walking up in there. I didn't know what to think. They were already in walkthroughs. Everybody knows it as mini camp now, right? And they weren't in the mandatory mini camp yet. They were more of in the stage where you kind of, you get the rookies, get some of the free agents, some of the younger guys that you've signed, just kind of a camp deal to kind of get them acclimated, get them working out, get them doing their thing. And they were kind of, it wasn't that serious, right? A lot of no pads action. So I walk up in there. They just got done shooting a walkthrough in the morning. I'm getting shown the ropes, getting the tours, right? I'm seeing all the players. I remember running into Pac-Man Jones he went to West Virginia. Obviously, I went to Marshall, and I was wearing, because I didn't have any clothes, right? All I had were really nice Marshall polos because I was that, guy who just went to Marshall. That, person didn't have any other clothing that were nice. I walked up in there wearing a Marshall polo, and Pac-Man saw it, and he said, "Yo, Marshall. Yo, fuck Marshall." And I was like, "Oh, well, fuck WU." He goes, "Yo, I went to WU." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." That's why I'm saying that. You know what I mean? And he said, Yeah, I went to W, and we fucking hated Marshall, bro. And I was like, yeah, no, it's all good. And he knows that Travis, which was my boss at the time of the Cincinnati Bengals, he also went to Marshall. So that was the connection I had there. So he kind of showed me around, met a lot of the players. They don't know who I am. But one thing I tell a lot of people about locker rooms in the NFL is it's different in college. I don't know if college has changed now since I've been out of it for, 34. So at least 10 years. But the guys in the NFL level, they treat you like as an adult. You guys are equal, really. I mean, obviously they make a lot more money. They're seen on Sundays on the NFL Sunday Ticket, whatnot, but they treat you as an adult. Where at the college level, when they're really good, they're above everyone else. They're above you. They're above the staff. They're above other players. You know what I mean? So they kind of talk like their shit don't stink, right? It's a lot different in the NFL, right? Everybody's kind of working towards a single goal, which obviously won a Super Bowl, but that was pretty much different. But anyway, I got the tour. I actually ended up shooting, I think. Funny enough, shooting that walkthrough that day, that first day on the job, I thought I was like, I made it. I'm the $12 an hour guy, right? But funny enough, I was not the $12 an hour guy. Alex, who we had on last week, a week and a half ago, he was the $12 an hour guy, right? So I kind of took that as kind of hating on me, you know what I mean? As in, I'm lesser than him. Funny enough, he ended up becoming basically my best friend, and we moved past it. But when I got even when I got the job at Marshall, I ended up calling my one of my best friends as well, through college and even today. I told him I was moving. He lived in Cincinnati at the time before me. And I said, yo, you need a roommate. He goes, yeah. I said, yo, well, I'm coming. He said, well, let me know when you get the job. Like thinking that I'm full of shit. Like I ain't going to work for the Bengals. He said, I was like, dude, I already have the job. We need to look for a place right now. So yeah, we ended up getting a little shack in literally the worst part of Cincinnati. If you know anything about Cincinnati, it was literally by the University of Cincinnati. So UC, literally kind of walking up the street, up the hill in like in the absolute ghetto. I mean, just a quick story here since we're already kind of rolling. I mean, my car got broken into. I shouldn't even say broken into. Being the scrub that I was, thinking it's all good. I left my car unlocked. And of course, being in the great neighborhood I was, my car, my keys, not my keys, my phone. Why did I leave my phone in my car? I don't even remember. Who knows? I was 24 years old. I left my phone in the car. I left my wallet in the car. And since I was signing up for payroll that week, I left my Social Security card in the car. Everything else. So the only saving grace was my license was already expired or expiring the next week. It was West Virginia license. I lived in Ohio now, obviously, and it was about to expire. So I got that expired. It was just, it was pretty wild. But anyway, as we kind of got through mandatory mini camp, right, that was fine. Nothing serious there. And then summertime was super easy, right? Right after mandatory mini camp, everybody kind of gets out of the building, right, and goes on vacation. So it was nothing exciting there. But when we kind of got going into fall camp, as we call it in the college world, training camp in the NFL world, right, that's when I started making a lot more money, right, because you're working overtime. I got paid overtime hours. We got breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and a snack. And when you think a snack, you're like, oh, you probably got like a PB&J. Oh, my God. It was bigger than a dinner. We got tacos. It was like a full spread. Tacos, sandwiches, stuff they could take to their room. Because the Bengals do training camp on site, as in the same Cincinnati, right? They do it. They didn't always used to do that, but they did when I started there. Where other teams, they go to a completely different location to do their training camp, right? That's kind of how it was back in the day, the old school, right? Is you kind of work out. You start working out when training camp starts, right? Because, off season's off season, but not anymore, right? Guys pretty much stay in shape year round, right? So training camp is not really what it was. It's basically just kind of, we're still working out, but now we're going to learn more of new plays. The playbook kind of get more acclimated with, maybe new coaching that's come in. Maybe you have a new position coach, whatever. That's kind of how that rolls, especially in terms of that fall camp, training camp range. But we kind of got started with that. I got to meet a lot of players that way because you eat with them, right? You eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner because, when they're practicing or walk through, you're shooting it, right? So you're doing everything they're doing. So when they're free, you're free. So when you're eating, they're eating. So I got to meet AJ Green on the elevator. He said all about 5 words to me. Andy Dalton, right? Carlos Dunlap. I'm not don't misconstrue it. We're not boys by any means, but meeting a lot of them, they see your face every day, right? They know you're shooting their drills. So it kind of became a team thing, which I really enjoyed. So the worst thing I thought was definitely, which I think all NFL players, definitely staff will probably say this, is definitely the preseason. When you get into the preseason games, it was 4 games then, it's knocked down to 3 now. The roster's a lot bigger, right? You're in the 80s then, all right? You're supposed to get, when you're on flights, 2 preseason games on the road, you're supposed to get a seat in between you. Bengals didn't do that way because we had too many players, right? Some teams are taking 2 planes. We took 1, everybody on 1 plane. So we're pretty jam-packed, right? All the staff was in the back. The coolest part about the planes, though, that a lot of people don't know, is that we got Chick-fil-A getting on the flight, right? And it was the full spread of Chick-fil-A. Right? It's sandwiches. It's nuggets. My favorite part, I'm a big sauce guy. All the sauces, right? The sweet and sour, the Chick-fil-A sauce, the barbecue sauce, always stacking up on extra BBQ for the crib, right? Extra barbecue sauce for the nuggets. If I wanted to grab 2 12-piece nugget, grab 2 12-piece nugget. I mean, that was so cool. And they have their own flight attendants as well. So you got to kind of know, or I should say it this way, the flight attendants got to know you. I mean, you knew them because they wore their jerseys with the names on the back, right? So the flight attendants always wore Bengals jerseys. They always had their name on the back. So I guess you knew their last name at least, but whatever name they wanted to put on there. But they got to know you because that's their job, right? So they got to know Alex, and he doesn't anymore. I don't want to put him, he did a lot. He did tobacco. He did snuff, as they call it, right, back in the day. And he always asked for a cup the first couple flights, right, to spit in, a spit cup. After that, second flight, if I remember, they had a spit cup in his seat. And they always want to know what you drink. So if you drank Coke or soda, whatever, you drank water, they would always put a water bottle in your seat. Right. So when you sat down, you had everything you need to kind of get your trip going. You had your Chick-fil-A, you had your spit cup if you're Alex, you had your water if you were me, and you kind of got grooving. That was so cool. And then as soon as you sit down, they were starting rolling around with snacks, right? Whether you wanted fruit, whether you wanted peanuts, whether you wanted, they didn't really bring the candy around until after the meal. But, anything you wanted, they had it, and you just had to ask them. And then they kind of had especially for the shorter, the longer trips, but they also had kind of a main course. I don't want to go too crazy, but it was usually something like that, like chicken or something real basic that you can kind of grub on. Definitely on the trip back, they always had M&Ms and ice cream bars, ice cream sandwiches, Skittle, whatever. I didn't really eat that stuff. I don't eat that stuff now in terms of candy bars, so to speak, but they always had big old baskets of that just up and down. And a lot of times the players were asleep after the game. So, those were always more than enough for us losers in the back. So, but a lot of different stuff, as we kind of get, I know when I was packing up for preseason, one time, it was our first, I can't remember if it was our first game, on the road, if I remember correctly, because I know it was definitely preseason. And the last game that we had on the road was in Arizona, so I know it wasn't that one. We also played Indy as well. I think that was at home though. Every year an NFL team plays the same team every year. Cincinnati's always Indianapolis because it's a road trip. You can drive it. Right, so that's only an hour and a half drive from Indianapolis. So that's why they play each other, at the end of every preseason. I think it was before that one. I was packing up all the stuff, and dude, I felt something. I felt something pop. right? And we had a ton of video equipment. Gosh, we had so much. Tripods. We had multiple cameras. We had a lot of meeting room stuff. So you're talking projectors. We had our still shot equipment. It's funny now because it's all tablets now based, really. But back in the day, they were doing half. That's when the tablets just came out, like half tablets, half paper. So we had our still shot equipment. So there's a lot of equipment to put kind of in the loading dock and get prepared for the plane. And Alex, his ass did not help me. I would tell him that to his face. His ass never helped me. And I'm packing it all up. I knew we did this at Marshall. This was not anything out of the ordinary, right? But no one helped me. I would always have to go into storage. I'm not trying to be woe is me here, but I was always doing everything. I'm lifting stuff. It's like 7 a.m. in the morning, right? That we're going to fly out for this thing. Not 7 a.m. fly out, but I'm there packing this stuff. And I just remember feeling something pop when I lift something, but I was like, maybe it's just me being early. I ain't stretching at 24 years old, 25 years old. So I kind of started loading it up. Everything's groovy. Ain't no thing. You know what? We played the Chiefs. That's what it was. We played the Kansas City Chiefs on the road in the preseason. Gosh, it was so loud there in the preseason. In the preseason, it was loud. I didn't really think anything of it, really. And then I kind of went on the trip, got to the hotel. I was like, my balls hurt. But, I'm good. Maybe I nicked them, unloading the plane. Whatever. Ain't nothing no alcohol can hurt or help, you know what I mean? Whatever. I remember I met a really good friend of mine, out and about, Kelly. We were going to a bar. Me, Alex, and her went out to a bar. We got pretty smashed right before the preseason game. I remember coming back to the hotel and kind of regrouping, right, to go to sleep. It's like, midnight, 1 a.m., whatever time it was, right? And we got a preseason game. And preseason game started pretty early then. It was like 6. It could be as early as 6, 7 p.m. Central Time, whatever. So probably East Coast 8. But I remember just in complete pain trying to go to bed. It hurt. I could not sleep. My balls were just... think about, when you can hear your heartbeat in your head? Think about that. And then think about just extreme swelling down there. That's the best I got for you. And it was just pounding, like a headache in your balls. It's the best way I can explain it. I don't know. I'm not an expert, not a medical expert. I ended up getting to the game. It was okay. I just remember, no pain, no gain. And I just remember getting back. I finally made it back home, right, from the trip. And I just could not sleep. Right, because we fly back right after the game's over. So I made it back to the crib, late. Real late. And I could not sleep. I couldn't sleep that night. I know I had a light day the next day. I couldn't sleep. It was just awful. Long story short, that next week, it was so bad that I ended up having to go to the emergency room because I haven't slept in like 4 days at this point. I haven't taken any medication. I don't know what's going on. All I know is I got my balls hurt basically, and I can just constantly hear my heartbeat in my head. So go to the emergency room, as all emergencies room are. Sarah's sitting right next to me. She's probably laughing how this emergency room visit is. Waited for at least an hour. And it was moderately packed. It's not like people were standing, but it was, 6, 7 people deep for sure. I waited about an hour. It was 7 p.m. at night, roughly. Definitely dark out. So maybe a little bit later than that, 8, 9. And I finally got in, and I know we're running a little long here, but I finally got in, and the dude was like, bro, this is insane. I was like, what's insane? Because this hurts. He's like, you have a hernia, and I've never seen one this large. He goes, it's so bad and so large that I can hear your heartbeat if I put my stethoscope on... it was like a midsection. I wouldn't say on my balls, but on my midsection because it was it was large down there. He goes, I can hear your heartbeat through it. I had MRI, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, the good news is it was only like fluids in there. It was like my intestines went into my balls, which can happen, by the way. That's actually a real thing. That did not happen, and I needed surgery. So I ended up having to have surgery scheduled, and I actually have had a consultation. Right? You got to do a consultation, then you have to have surgery scheduled, and then you have to do your thing. So I ended up having surgery, and I remember the first thing I asked him. I'm going to leave y'all with this. I asked him, the doctor, I said, hey, we had to travel to Phoenix to play the Cardinals in the last preseason game, or the second last preseason game. I said, hey, can I travel after this? And he looked at me in the weirdest way. He was like, why would anyone do that? I was like, well, we're going to a preseason game. I work for the Bengals. He said, I'm not telling you that you can't, but I'm recommending that you shouldn't, but you can if you want. As a 25-year-old man, a male, I said, yep, we're traveling. I was on the plane the next day with stitches in me. Yep. So, anyway, more to come on the next episode. Facts, Lies, One Truth. Ox Garage Talks. We'll catch y'all next time.